Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to our latest webcast that we're bringing you from Travel Weekly. And this one is a very special one. We were due to all be together in person at Travel Weekly's Future of Travel Spring Forum today in London. Unfortunately, the train strikes put paid to that, but our four fantastic panelists have agreed to join me all the same on Zoom this morning. So let's give a very warm welcome to our panel. Amanda Matthews, who is co-owner and managing director at Designer Travel. Harry Hastings, who's co-CEO of Ocean Holidays. Andy Freeth, who is the CEO of Classic Collection Holidays. And Paul Hardwick, formerly head of commercial, but now director of retail. Exclusive here, new promotion for Paul at Fred Olsen Travel. Paul takes up that new role in April, and we will ask you a little bit about that shortly, Paul. But we pulled together the Future of Travel Spring Forum really to get a gauge on where the industry is after the peak period. So let's dive straight in on that. And I'll start with you, Amanda, as looking after all the agents that you do and right on the front line talking to consumers, just to get a gauge of what you've been seeing. I think we reported, you said, a flying January, tailed off a tiny bit in February, but how's it been for you and how's it going looking forward into March?
So, I mean, we were expecting a level January, February, March because we flew out of the blocks in 2022. So we were delighted with January. We were 39% up over our best ever January. February started a bit slower the first 2 weeks, but then boomed in the last few weeks. So we were 30% up in February. And March is just carrying on. I mean, last week and the week before, we were 50% up. So it is really, really busy. And where you start now as an agent to think, get a breather, get ready for late, the breather hasn't yet arrived, which is great news, but it's almost like peaks has just carried on for us for another month.
Well, that's fantastic news. We'll come back to ask what particularly is selling, but let's jump to Paul then, also in retail. So finding out what you've been seeing, similar to Amanda or something different?
Yeah, very similar to Amanda, to be honest. Really strong January and February. I think booking volumes have slowed down a little bit in March, but the average booking value has been going up during March, where those kind of luxury products for later on this year and even into next year are sort of selling really well as well. So on the high street, it's been booming. For the franchise people that are working from home, they've been flying as well. It's been a really strong start. It's difficult for us to gauge year on year because we grew our business quite significantly during the pandemic. I've got 6 more shops than I had in 2019. So even against last year, they're maturing quite nicely now. But we've been seeing sort of double business most weeks compared to what we were seeing this year and definitely back in 2019.
Well, I love this. This is such good news after doing so many, recordings when it wasn't so great. Andy, you've been nodding there, and I think we talked to you last, and you were saying actually that your long haul, slightly higher value product was selling really well, and that's kind of tallies with what the guys are saying. So tell us what you're seeing.
Yeah, look, we had a great start to Jan and Feb. Probably like everybody else, Feb did soften, but I think you've got to take the 2 months together really, because if you remember last year we still had Omicron in January, so everybody had a great January versus the one before because it was a bit soft because Omicron was still kind of floating about, and I think there's that pent-up demand then hitting Feb. So to have a bumper Jan and a slightly softer Feb wasn't an unusual surprise for me and probably for anybody else really. So if you take the 2 months together, we were significantly up on last year. And yeah, look, our average booking values again are much higher. We're seeing lots of people trying to do those bucket list opportunity holidays, and long haul is still relatively new to us. I mean, we of course won a fantastic award at the Globes for long haul tour operator of the year, which I was absolutely thrilled about, having just joined the business, and yeah, that just continues to go.
Is it all down to you then, Andy?
No, I played no part in that, but I'm delighted to carry that around, carry it around the office with me all the time. I've left it in the office, but it stays with me all of the time. But no, I'm just proud of the team. To join a business, in November and then to pick that up, it's just great because it lifts everybody. And there's been a lot of people there put a lot of hard work in for that. And although the volumes aren't huge just yet, they will be because the trade is slowly switching their business to us because they trust us because of the way that we operate.
Well, we can ask Amanda about that because I believe she's one of your partners, so we'll come on to that. But let's just talk to you, Harry. We had a story with you talking about how you've done brilliantly in January, but crucially that your trade revenues were up.
Yeah, so I think just the same as what everybody else is reporting with regards to peaks. Really, we went into January after a softer Q4 with so much turmoil, September, October, thinking that, you know, if we can get a reasonable January, and then if it was to stay, you know, elevated throughout the first quarter, that would be a good result. And as we came into peaks, everybody that we talked to and ourselves had a stonking month, and it was really, really good. I think we're unique, I guess, to others on the call in that our two main forms of distribution is high-end, long-haul luxury travel with winged boots, and then the US, predominantly to Florida through Ocean Florida. So as we moved into the rest of the quarter, if we look at January, February, March as a whole, we're pretty pleased. We're on budget. We've done everything we hoped to do. But to say we're not disappointed from the drop off from January to February wouldn't be true. I think that certainly to the US, a lot of the major airlines' sales would typically continue throughout February, at least until the middle of February. And a lot of the US airlines, a lot of the airlines flying to the US that had some cracking deals on throughout peaks, they obviously did so well that they didn't need to keep those sales going, and consumers and the trade, importantly, would have known that. And then from a luxury standpoint, it's revenue, and booking numbers are for travel management businesses and luxury is something I think you need to keep an eye on. It's great that we're able to record these record months and record weeks, but the reality is the cost of the holidays have gone up, so the revenues are typically up 40, 50, 60% because the average order values are up. And then you get into, what do you compare to? Well, where do you even start? Because did you have a normal 22 or didn't you? And you go back to 2019. Well, 2019 was 4 years ago now, so what's the point? So you can only really look forward at the business that you've built and what you're hoping to achieve. But I would say, in summary, I'd look at, like what Andy said about the 2-3 months in totality. I think really pleased with the 2-3 months in its entirety. And then looking forward, you know, there's been a bit of good news about the economy. Who knows? Maybe things are going to get better and better as they come along. But just quickly on the trade there, we started selling to the trade in the middle of the pandemic, and you know, when we first started it, we thought it would be great if 20% of our packages were via travel agents and via home workers, and we've just been so pleased with the growth we've seen through the trade. It was the most successful business unit within Ocean Holidays throughout January, February, and going into March as well. And a good chunk of that is into Florida, but I'm really pleased to say that, you know, about 50% of it isn't just Florida, it's the rest of the US. So it's New York, California, Vegas, and it's really diversifying the destinations we sell. So we're delighted with the trade. It's been a great experience, and we're making some really lovely friends along the way.
Oh, that's good to hear. Well, actually, it follows on nicely, because Amanda, we reported you saying that COVID was the best thing that ever happened to brilliant travel agents. I guess, you know, tell us what you meant by that.
I mean, I've said that throughout the whole of COVID, in that, you know, historically, as a travel, I've always been a travel agent, and historically we've always talked about, you know, the value of a travel agent and how you add that value and how you're there to look after your customers. And then obviously the world went online and the death of the travel agent, and yet my belief's always been that if you are a brilliant travel agent and people have used a brilliant travel agent, then you know the difference. And COVID was the best opportunity that in my 30 plus years that we have ever had to demonstrate that absolute statement. And, you know, we were there 24/7. We did not, you know, shut the doors and take the easy route. We looked after everyone, not just for a few months, for the full duration. And that is the main reason I believe our business has boomed in the last 2 years. Yeah. And you know, lots of brilliant travel agents did exactly the same as we did, and they managed to recover far quicker than those that maybe thought it was a bit too difficult and dug their heels in and said, no, we'll shut until it's all over.
Well done, you. We'll just switch over to chat to Andy. because obviously the trade are hugely important to you. What have you been seeing in terms of their support for your brand?
Yeah, look, like I said, I'm still fairly new, so I can play the new boy card here. But Classic has been going for a lot of years. It's been well respected for the way that we look after our customers when they travel with us. We've got a really quite exciting campaign coming up at the moment with giving travel agents the opportunity to be a rep. I think Amanda's actually thrown her hat in the ring. I think you'd be fantastic, by the way.
I'm already on the list.
I know, I did see your name, and Si was very excited when he announced it. But so we're seeing, look, just continued support. Amanda and Paul, we work with really closely, and we've got great relationships. And yeah, look, I don't want to go into too much kind of too many gushy, salesy stuff. We've got a really good brand that the trades really like. We've got a great team that I think have built some fantastic relationships. And I think my job in all of that is to continue to nurture that, create opportunities for my team and the colleagues that we've got in the business to continue to innovate and look at different ways of delivering. But it's a straightforward relationship, really. We need to be in the travel agent's mind the moment a consumer walks in to ask for products that we can offer. And that's it. I talk about it all of the time. We've got, as a predominantly B2B, and it's about 90%, our business is built on the travel agent, whether it's when the customer walks in or when they pick up the phone or however they communicate with travel agents, is that we are thought of in that split moment. Because if we're not thought of, we've got no chance. So all of our activity and everything that we do is geared towards thinking about that exact moment in time when someone asks for a holiday to a destination that we can offer. And those little personal touches and the reps in resort make a massive difference because of how personalised that is, and they can touch with every single customer, and they're there to support them when they're on their holiday. And yeah, it's just about continuing to do that and doing it well.
Okay. And I don't want it to continue to be a big sales pitch for Classic, obviously, but given that we've got Amanda here, who, what is it that you look for when you're deciding what suppliers to work with? Because I know you were quite brutal through the pandemic, because if people hadn't supported you, you were quite clear that you weren't going to work with them again. So what is it? Has it changed what you're looking for? Or now that you've come out of the pandemic, are you a bit more demanding?
And no, I don't. I think it's the same things that we looked for pre-pandemic to now. And those that let us down and didn't communicate with us properly over the pandemic and didn't treat our customers correctly are still not on our, radar to sell. And we've got, we're not fair, but we won't go back on that. I mean, it's really basic and straightforward. We need people we trust. We need people that we can get hold of quickly and they're efficient. We need people who can offer a good value offering to our clients. And most of all, when things go wrong, we need to know that we can speak to somebody and have a really open and honest dialogue with them to try and solve a mutual problem on behalf of our joint customers. And, at the end of the day, if everyone can tick those boxes, then happy days. And the icing on the cake then is we work with some teams that are just a delight to work with, that help us and give us ideas to grow our business as well. So that's the icing on the cake.
Yes, so the fun stuff and the incentives and the be our rep, be our guest, the thing that Classic's doing, which is great, but it's actually the trust that's the most important thing.
Yeah, it's the foundations of what you build on. And somebody could come with an amazing price, but if things go wrong and it takes you 3 weeks to do a name change, well, that we're all so busy, we haven't got those hours to waste on working with inefficient tour operators who haven't got a robust enough support system.
Yeah,
which Classic are not one of those. They are amazing to work with. Brilliant.
Well, Harry, that must have been something you cottoned on to, because you said to us that 95% of your agent calls are answered in under 30 seconds. And Amanda says that's one of the key things.
It's been what's been really fascinating for us, I guess, where we're primarily, and we come from a consumer background, and the way that we operate as a business is all about making sure that you answer the phone quickly, how we communicate. We've built a CRM all around how we have better communication with customers. So when we started selling to the trade, it was very simple for us that anything that we do, we're easy to get hold of, and we're easy to do business with. So once people started working with us, the reason we believe and we're told people like working with us is we answer the phone within about 30 seconds, or if you send an email, you get an email back within about 4 hours, and we've kept that consistent. We've kept that consistent all along, and that very simple thing seems to be the most important element of what we're doing for all of our travel agents and home workers who are working with us, and that's generally the biggest bit of feedback we get. The other thing is where we're a destination specialist, if you can combine answering the phone in good time with some expertise at the other end and somebody who knows what they're talking about, that seems to be a great combination. And then lastly, making sure we've got some unique selling points. For example, our out of date range programs, our prices are guaranteed. We never go back to customers and say your price is going up. And so that's it really. So those three things for us have been important, but it sounds really simple, but just answering the phone and replying to an email is the most important thing. And if you can do that at all times and keep it up and be consistent, it goes a hell of a long way.
And have you got deals now with all the main consortia and the agency groups and the home working groups?
I wouldn't say all of them. No, I'd say we're halfway there, but we're working with three of the biggest. And in order for us to make sure we can keep answering the phone very quickly and replying to those emails very quickly, we've got to be mindful not to go too big too soon. It's our 20th anniversary this year. We're a fairly mature business in that respect, and we're just really enjoying working with the trade and working with partners that enjoy working with us and listening to what they need and delivering for them at the moment. So we don't work with all consortia. We're open to more as we grow and go through, but equally we're not in any rush. We're very happy with the workload we've got in front of us.
Okay. All right, Harry.
I can't believe it's been 20 years, by the way. That feels like it was yesterday. I would encourage everyone to have a look on LinkedIn actually, because they've done some stories on the two sets of brothers. And they've all had nice photos, and they all look very young and very handsome. But it's I've been fascinated. I've not spoken to you, Harry, for a little while, but I have been watching all that.
Oh,
thanks, Andy.
Amanda's got her 15th anniversary this year. Is that right?
15 years. Honestly.
Again, it feels like that was yesterday when you started.
I can remember when you set that up. Let's see if Paul can speak now. Can we hear you, Paul?
Am I working?
Yes, amazing. All right. Well, let's go back to what we were talking about. It was basically about coming out stronger from the pandemic, and also if you can pick up, and Harry was talking there about having experts on the end of the phone. I know you employed a load more staff for your shops, and some of them you had to take with no travel experience at all. And I know Classic's been doing that as well, because I came down to visit you and I met all your new recruits that were being trained up, because obviously there's been this resource issue, but you're having to get people from elsewhere, but it seems to be working.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think this morning's issues kind of sums it up, that we all dealt with technology during the pandemic because we had to, but coming back out, people have been going back into high street travel agents, ringing up travel agents, going back to those face-to-face relationships because it's crucial. We use technology when we have to, but do we like to? No, we don't. We'd all prefer to be in London right now doing this face-to-face. And that was one of the things that we've seen. And as we grew and came back out of the pandemic, we had to recruit quite quickly last year. So I had 30% more staff in January this year than I had January last year. And that comes with its own challenges, because you've got to make sure that you bring them up to speed. Customers were very needy, which was good for us because it was why we were there, but it was trying to get that skill set up very quickly. So we had some things that we put in place at head office, where we had some buddy schemes for our trainees that came in. We've just recently held a day at one of the football clubs near where our head office is, to kind of get them all together, to talk about their progress together, and to basically get them to use each other as much as their own managers and their own support staff to help learn where we are. And then 100% during the end of, I guess, 2021 into 2022, we used operators to train these staff every day, whereas before the pandemic we were doing pretty much training sessions every Tuesday morning, a little bit here and there. We were doing it every morning, 9 till 9:30. Every operator that we work with, let's get them in, let's get these guys, we'll record it, they can watch it when they've got any free time. And it just helped to blend them into the business and the industry quite quickly, to be honest.
Yeah, and the other thing, we spoke about this at the weekend because Paul and I were at a River Cruise conference, but you've got now you're going to take on this new role as director of retail. You're going to try and share best practice across all the divisions. So you've got your first conference coming up with your franchisees and your shop staff. So that's never happened before, but you think that will obviously be able to, they'll be able to help each other.
Exactly, yeah. We've got 62 franchisees as well as our 17 retail shops, and bringing those guys together, not just for us to share best practices, but for the operators to not have to do these things with us twice, that they can do it in one go and they can see everybody at one opportunity. It's a great reason to do it. And as much as it's a different business model, retail shops and the franchisees, they're doing exactly the same thing. They've got the same skill set. We're trying to value what we give people. One of the things that we've seen in our business is our margin is about 1% higher now than it was pre-pandemic. And that's because customers are valuing agents more than ever before. And that, for me, is like Amanda was saying about the good things that came out of the pandemic. For me, I've always valued what we do as a travel agency, but now customers are actually getting that as well. And they're not demanding the discounts because they realised what we could offer them as part of our service.
That is brilliant. What about you, Amanda? How are your margins? Because I mean, Harry told us that prices are obviously up, but how are your margins on top of that?
So, I mean, our margins are slightly ahead of pre-pandemic, but not 1%. I wish they were, but no, not 1%. But I think a lot of our business mix has changed since the pandemic. We've done a lot more cruise. We've done a lot more kind of mainstream suppliers. And then what we're finding this year is that our long haul and bucket list just starting to come in, particularly in March. So fingers crossed our margins will improve with that change in booking mix moving forward.
Yeah. Well, let's just talk for a little while about what products are actually selling, what trends you're seeing. And Amanda, you touched on it there. You said you've done more cruise, but that's deliberate, isn't it? Because you've set up a whole new cruise program within your business, which is really surpassed your expectations.
Yeah, so as a luxury home working business, we've always focused on beach. And so when I saw the cruise industry kind of, lots of new ships, I just thought, we're doing 2.6 million without training cruise. Let's really go for it in a year and really put all our kind of, thoughts behind it. And we did, and set ourselves a target for 5 million in 12 months, and we hit 5 million in 11 months. So we will have doubled our cruise business in 12 months, and it has been a massive focus. We've got more home workers than ever now that have booked cruise. We've really influenced them with 2 webinars a week, lots of training. We've had 103 people on ship visits. So we've absolutely thrown ourselves into that. And yeah, we're so delighted with the outcome because we didn't know whether it would work or not. So yeah, very, very happy with that.
And just looking ahead, given the success of that project, are there other sectors that you've got your eye on that you might be able to sort of, repeat that strategy?
Yeah, so our next focus, we will not stop with cruise, but our next big focus for the next 12 months is beyond the beach. So it's looking at activity, touring, bucket list, tailor-made, which we do already, but we do again without kind of really, really focusing. So that will be our next 12 months, and that will be our conference theme as well when we're off to Corfu in June.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, let's come to you, Andy. You haven't spoken for a while. We last interviewed you and you said Morocco and Egypt were selling well. Turkey, I mean, we should perhaps mention that, obviously a bit of a setback, but you've got customers wanting to go there. You added more properties into Turkey because you want to help its recovery. And then you also said you're seeing quite a lot of demand for private jets and yacht charters. So tell us what you're seeing and if that's continuing.
So look, the sort of strength of the business is Spain, Greece, Italy, Portugal, but making it into the top 10 now is Maldives, Barbados and Dubai from a long haul perspective. And we are still seeing that trend from a destination perspective of Egypt. You see me looking down here to make sure I don't miss any. It's Egypt, Croatia and Morocco. Those three, and Morocco surprised me. Egypt, Morocco and Croatia doing really well. And yeah, Turkey, look, there was a very, very slight dip. And, I think it's worth, acknowledging the terrible things that have happened there. And obviously the industry is rallying very swiftly. We will continue to support. We've recently launched our brochure. We'll have a big push. We've done a deal recently with Sun Express, which is offering some fantastic flying capacity down to Turkey. So with both Classic Collection and Classic Package holidays, we've got a cracking opportunity for Turkey, not only for this year, but that's going to grow into 2024. So yeah, look, it's all really good stuff. You know, there's as Amanda said there about the sort of tailor-made stuff. We do multi-center itineraries, but I don't think we've put them forward enough. So I suspect at some point, I don't want to give too much about, at some point, I'm sure we'll launch a brochure around that. We've joined ATAS, which is obviously a great organisation to be able to promote that to travel agents that want to get into touring and adventure. And yeah, look, there's tons. We're quite fortunate because we've really only been in the short haul market. You know, there's still so many different things that we can do over the coming years. You know, I might try and give Harry a run for his money in Florida, but that might mean actually having to use his beds. But I'm sure we can figure out something on that. You know,
going to broker a deal right here.
Yeah, listen, they're great guys to do business with. So I'd be delighted to do anything with those guys. So look, we're lucky that we've got, you know, and actually, if you look at a lot of businesses over the last 10 years or so, I did some analysis recently where I was looking at which operators are in which space, because you want to kind of find your space and you want to find what your unique proposition is. And you've got long haul operators that were really good destinational specialists that have gone into short haul. You've got B2C guys that are going into B2B. You've got people just drifting. The businesses are expanding and expanding. So actually, there's no one that does just a few bits now. There's so many other things that people can do. So for us, it's about building the trust and respect of our agent partners. I think we've done a reasonable job of that so far, but we've never rest on our laurels there. And then listen to the trade, because it is predominantly trade, and say, look, what else do you want us to do? Is it ski? Is it cruise? Is it river cruise? Is it touring? Do we have a bash at the USA? Do we do next? And you know, they're all unknown questions at the moment. I've got a big long list in the office of different things that we can do, but we just do it slowly, we do it carefully, we do it in the right way. And if we launch things properly, and you get it right from the start, you can see growth in that. You know,
and Andy, even though you only launched long haul relatively recently, what's the split between your long haul, you know, your classic collection and then your classic packages? What does that look like now?
Long haul across the both at the moment is broadly 20% of what we do.
Okay, so packages is still really important. I mean, last time we interviewed you, you said there was definitely scope to increase sales of package, you know, the packages, but obviously there's some agents were nervous to, you know, using their own atoll. So are you seeing that sort of it being an issue, or do you think people are keen to dynamically package again?
Well, look, classic packages is again doing really well, particularly in the regions. You know, so if you look at regions like, and we've done a big push on this recently. So if you look at Edinburgh, Bristol, Bournemouth, Birmingham, all the Bs actually, quite bizarrely. If you look at those sort of airports where there's a little bit less competition, and there's a bit more flexibility around the flying. That's the thing that Classic Packages offers, a huge range of product on lots of different airlines to lots of different properties. And yeah, it's a good alternative to using some of the larger tour operators. And look, I think for us, I don't want to be too controversial here, but the great thing about Classic Packages, pardon?
I said I like controversy, so
but and I mean this genuinely. I think the good thing about Classic Packages, if we rewind 20 years, because I am a little bit older, like some of my colleagues here, not that because I know the guy started 20 years ago. Pointed to Harry. Now I'm going to dig Harry out. So if we rewind, what was wonderful about travel agents, when I used to walk into travel agents, they were able to have this mystery and mystique of this secret tool that they could use that nobody else had. And that's kind of faded away as the consumers got availability to stuff online. So I think what Classic Packages does is it creates this kind of mystique and mystery, because the consumer can't book with Classic Packages. They can't do that. But if they go in and book a tour operator, they get all the tour operator documents, and then the next time they want to book, they go, well, do I really need to go back to those? I mean, they were all right, but they've just booked this for me. I can just do that myself. So the travel agents are helping fuel this massive growth in tour operators. Whereas with us, if they book a Classic Package, then they've got to go back to the travel agent. So the more travel agents wake up to that and realize, yes, this is a great idea, then the better. I say wake up. I mean, they're obviously aware of that, and they will just book what's right for the consumer. But I think Classic Packages has got a great opportunity for growth, and as I say, particularly in those regions where there's some great stock, massive range of flexibility, and again that kind of really good pricing as well.
Okay, all right. Well, good luck with that, Harry. Let's ask you about. And you mentioned earlier that I think it was just almost 50% was not Florida, and you were looking to grow other destinations. So can you just go into a bit more detail on that? You mentioned a few other US cities, of course, but it's not just the US, is it?
No, I think across the two businesses, Wing Boots and Ocean Florida, if we start with Ocean Florida, which works with the trade, is that we've been quietly and looking forward to how can we diversify and how can we provide a wider product range to our consumers direct, but also via the trade, and not just Florida. And we've been really successful in that in the last couple of years, and mostly I would say the biggest success has been via the trade. So at the moment, it's interesting with the US, we're seeing a lot of demand for smaller groups. So party sizes have come down a bit, and destinations such as New York have rocketed ahead and have done particularly well. January, New York to the trade made up 40% of our bookings, which was huge for us. I think what's interesting with the US at the moment, and it's something that is little spoken about, is that the US is still one of the last destinations that you have to have a vaccine to get into. So when we typically look at our product mix, bigger groups and villa holidays would make up the bigger proportion of our business. But at the moment, that business is slightly dampened, where you have multi-families perhaps not traveling as much with one another. And also to the US, what you're seeing is the data through cancellations, although cancellations this year, fortunately, are much lower than previous years. What you are seeing is that about 1 in 5 cancellations are cancelling because of vaccine and medical reasons, because they don't want to go to the US because of COVID. So what's happening in the US, you've got smaller groups, more point-to-point, so places like New York. And certainly for us, we want it, in some respects, it's a good thing, because that supports our sort of diversification, and that's what we're going to keep doing with Ocean Florida. And for the time being, in the coming months and couple of years, we'll be focusing on the US, Caribbean and Mexico. We're going to stick with that part of the world. We've spoken to and listened to all of our travel agent partners, and I think for us, we're able to offer them that expertise, and the more that we can provide them support in that region where perhaps there's a bit of a gap, I think that's what people need, and that's what we're going to try and fill. And then when you look on the Wing Boot side, interesting here, and hearing you talk about the sort of luxury segment, Andy, because obviously Winged Boots is, has its own client base. It's not it's more of a private client business, but it does do a good bit of short haul. So we're looking forward to those last minute bookings this summer. I think high end islands are a big deal. You look at some of the newer properties that have opened over the years, like the one and only in Montenegro. You've got an Icos opening in Mallorca. I think these sort of luxury island holidays that you can now have in Europe is quite appealing for your higher end clients. So we're looking forward to some of those nice bookings coming up to the summer. And other than our staples, the UAE and Indian Ocean, places like South Africa are great value. When perhaps where we've had pent up demand in higher end travel, prices have been sometimes too high. So we're enjoying people going a bit further afield and trying destinations like South Africa. Okay, and you don't sound worried about Andy's imminent move into the US, into Florida. There's enough business for all of us, that's for sure.
Well, especially if he uses your bed.
We can all play nice.
We could all play very nice. The US, if you hear from Brand USA, they're trying to get back up to 5 million visitors to the US. So I'm sure I'm sure there's enough business for all of us to pick up. And as Andy says, when he needs help for his hotels and his villas in Florida, he knows who to call.
Exactly. Just before we move on, Harry, because we also did a story about your program for accessible travel. Just touch on that, because you launched that, I think, last November, and a huge part of the market you felt was being missed. I think you did a survey over 1,000 people, and 9 out of 10 people with disabilities were finding it really hard to book holidays or finding it tricky. So have you had much success so far with that new initiative?
It's been a roaring success. We are so pleased with how it's worked out. I think there's some of the key takeaways are we clearly had so many people booking and traveling with us who had special needs requests, and we just didn't know about it. So now they're just having a much better experience, and we're not seeing those issues come through when people are traveling, and we're getting rave reviews and people are very, very happy. So that's your business as usual stuff. And then the second thing is that when in those reports, you would have seen that 1 in 5 people that travel are registered, we believe, are registered disabled. One of our concerns was that we might get overwhelmed if 1 in 5 people were making requests for accessibility demands, and it's not the case. What we're finding is about 1 in 20 are coming through with saying, look, I need some help, whether it's to do with a visible or hidden disability, and then they're going down those channels and speaking to our specialists, and we're putting those holidays together. But those 1 in 20 that are making those inquiries, the conversion rate, I think I mentioned it on the last call, Lucy, is roughly 4 times a normal inquiry. Yeah. And the customers that we're speaking to are really, really pleased about it. And we can also say it's working via the trade as well. For those travel agents that know that they can speak to us about accessible holidays for their clients, we've got some people in the trade team who are specialists. So we've been really, really pleased. It's been great for customers. It's been great for business, and we're going to continue it. And if you look on the Florida holiday side, Lucy, just over 5% of our bookings right now are due to travel this year have got some sort of disability. So it's going to be interesting making sure that we can deliver on our promises, which we're working very hard on in the background.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. Oh, well, congratulations there. That's fantastic. Paul, let's just get your sort of trends and what's selling. I mean, obviously I saw you out at the River Cruise conference, and I know we talked about how that business had obviously taken a little bit of a dip, but was coming back strongly. You've got your new luxury cruise club as well. So what are you seeing, and what else are you looking at?
Yeah, River was a big focus for us before the pandemic, and I took all of our assistant managers out to the River Cruise conference back in, I think it was 2017, and we saw our River business double in the next year. So it's something that we were looking to focus on coming out of the pandemic, on how we could continue to grow that. So we had a lot of staff go out over the weekend to look at how we can focus on that area. But also other areas, as you mentioned, luxury cruise is really important for us. We've created a new brand that we're focusing on at the moment, a standalone website, using our staff within the business to kind of deliver on the sort of inquiries we can get, but also look at trying to promote that across our wider existing database that we have, because actually coming out of the pandemic, people are looking for more bucket list opportunities, expeditions, growing, all of those areas of where we are. And a bit like Andy mentioned earlier, one thing we've also tried to do is look at those areas that we think we could grow quite quickly. So regional hubs are important for us in the areas where we have our shops. We've been able to create and buy some brands where we have a Norwich Airport brand, we have a Bournemouth Airport brand. So we're working with suppliers to focus on that regionality departures. And we held an event at both airports earlier on in the year, and we saw 50 bookings booked on the day of the event, split between the 2 different regions we did. We saw so many new customers coming through to us, just because rather than promote ourselves, we were promoting just flying from that airport on where we were. So it was a big success for us.
Okay, good stuff. All right, I'm conscious of everyone's time. I said it would be half an hour. We've gone on, but that was inevitable probably. Let's just go round you all and talk about what you think is the big opportunity for this year, but also anything that you think could trip us up. Any sort of concerns ahead that you're sort of going to be a little bit more cautious about? Can we start with you, Man?
Yeah, I mean, I feel optimistic about the future. It's nice to see all sectors doing really well. I think it's all still going to be driven by customer service and just really being nimble. I think you need to stay ahead of the game all the time, and you can't sit on your hands. So, I mean, late, we had a really strong late last year. You know, will that demand be there? I think the budget will help a little bit. And hopefully there will be enough capacity. So, I mean, I feel quite confident about the future. And to be fair, I mean, I think the biggest issue to all of us is recruitment still. You know, we've got to hope that these people that have left the industry start to come back now that the market's stabilising, because particularly we've only got one retail shop, but it's been such a tough order to fill just one vacancy. And obviously there's far more competition in home working now, so you've got to be the best in your game to keep ahead and to keep moving forward.
Yeah, when you mentioned competition in home working, of course we saw some consolidation in home working this week. We saw travel counsellors acquiring Holidays Please, which I think nobody was really expecting. It's not their normal strategy for growth. What did you make of that, Amanda, or anybody actually on the call?
I mean, I think it was a strange one. I mean, for travel counsellors to make an acquisition after, I think, 30 years they've not done it, but it is becoming increasingly difficult to organically grow. I mean, from the whole,
because of the recruitment, because you can't find these experienced people, like you just said,
and also there's far more people in the pot now trying to kind of source experts that want to work from home. I mean, I just find that it's, you know, you going from a small company to a much bigger company is probably an odd feeling for many. And we'll just see how that plays out.
Yeah, of course. All right. Andy, let's come to you. What do you think are the opportunities, and but also any words of caution?
No, look, I think the opportunities are what I've said before, really, is for us as a business anyway, is to, you know, continue to expand our long haul offering, continue to look for sort of little niche and products within the destinations that we currently offer. So look, I'm feeling good about the year ahead.
And do you agree with Amanda that the budget was, you know, broadly positive? I guess the extension of the energy cap will help. What do you think that will help you?
Yeah, do you know what? I think if you look at our average booking values, they're pretty high. So I don't think, you know, that we get affected by some of these sort of decisions that are made at government. I don't think they affect us as much. They of course affect the wider consumer space and the travel space. But the average booking values are pretty high, and I think consumers that have got that sort of cash pay little notice to the cost of their bills, or certainly less.
So you're outside of that sort of cost.
Well, I wouldn't say we're outside. There's an element of where it impacts. I wouldn't say it's something that drives any decision making. What can trip us up in the air? I just really don't know. I worry about things like what's happened in Turkey. If you look at things, there's always something, isn't there? I don't know what it's going to be, but Christ, if you look back over the last 20 years, there's always something that happens. So, you know, I'm hoping that we get a good run for a while without it, but there is just always something. You know, I didn't even know about the needing vaccines still for the US. I think that's madness. But anyway, there will always be something, but what it is, I don't know. What you've got to be, and everyone on this call would be doing that, and most people listening, is just ready to react and respond. And I think what COVID probably did is sharpen up everyone's minds on being able to shift and change and adapt their business accordingly to survive. And, you know, that's something else that surprised me just really quickly, that, you know, during the pandemic, there were very few failures. And if you think about how gritty it got, you know, and I spoke to colleagues on this call and lots of others in the industry, it got really gritty at times. It got really concerning. But if you look at the list of people that failed, not many. So we're a very resilient industry. So I think whatever's thrown at us this year, we'll deal with it. If we can deal with every plane stopping for a serious period of time, I'm sure whatever's thrown at us, we'll just deal with it.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Harry, what are you looking forward to the most, and what keeps you awake at night?
I think what am I looking forward to the most? I'm looking forward to fairly predictable and stable trading. I think that
would be nice, wouldn't it?
And that would be nice. And certainly, you know, where 85% of our business is the US, you know, we only had borders open to the US at the end of 2021, so we only had a significant amount of people traveling, really for 14 months. So we're looking forward to making sure that or not even making sure, just seeing how the land lies and being able to trade in a way where you can plan and there's a level of predictability. I think that's something that we're very much looking forward to,
because that's important, presumably, because then you can start to invest and grow.
Exactly, and also the lead time from booking to travel for our product in particular, averages at 11-12 months. So you want to be able to know what's happening in the future if all your customers are booking to go into the future as well. So a level of predictability is something that we are relieved to have at this point in time.
Yeah.
And that the challenges of COVID and immediate post-COVID hopefully are mostly behind us. I think both an opportunity and a threat, and Andy just mentioned there, is again specific to the US, is that if and when the vaccine mandate gets removed, I think that's going to unleash some demand into the US, because there are a number of people that just won't go there. And if you think a large proportion of people are vaccinated, it's not that 85-90% aren't vaccinated, but when you get 3 families together who live on the same street, there's going to be somebody in the party who isn't vaccinated, which then crosses the US off the list. So I think that's a great opportunity for the US as a destination to remove the vaccine mandate as quickly as possible, because it will unleash our core product, which are villa holidays to Florida, I think. And then again, both an opportunity and a threat is that this affects destinations worldwide, and certainly long haul, and most importantly for us, the US, is the exchange rate on the dollar. We're sitting at 1.2 at the moment. It's prohibitively expensive. It makes the holidays expensive. So if by some kind of magic the dollar rate got back up to, I remember when Brexit happened in 2016, and we were all completely and utterly shocked at 1.4. What I'd give for 1.4 today. So I think that's both an opportunity and a threat, and I think an ongoing threat that we need to be mindful of, and it touched on Amanda's point with staff, is cost of living, inflation all does feed into staff and recruitment, and balancing, making sure that people are paid enough and paid to do a really good job, which for the amazing work that they do in this industry, but balancing that against real costs for businesses as well. And I think that's a constant challenge. Part of the recruitment challenge problems, I think, is that you've had such a competitive market, and salaries have significantly increased over the years. So I think it's great that it's great that people are earning, but it's also costing them a hell of a lot more to live. So I'd say I think that's a threat that we need to be mindful of, not just because people might not have enough money to buy holidays, but also that they might not be happy in the workplace, or the amount they need to earn works for travel businesses. So I think that's something that plays into the recruitment conversation.
You very graciously made that point without pointing out that you won the Employer of the Year at the Globes. Andy mentioned his award, so we should have mentioned yours. So you're obviously doing something right for your staff, because they seem to be very happy to be there. But you're right, it's a challenge. We've got to keep up with other industries, otherwise we will lose more people if we're not looking after people.
It's especially in areas which are not travel specific. Technology, digital marketing. Okay, the technology sector is coming off now, but how do you compete with big tech businesses that have been booming when you're trying to build digital marketing teams? It's very, very difficult.
Yeah. All right. Good points. And Paul, we'll give you the final word. What do you anticipate for this year?
I guess the most exciting thing about this year, as Harry alluded to it earlier on, is it does feel like it's almost a blank piece of paper this year. You can't really track against last year. 2019 is too long ago. So it is, what does this year going to look like? And at the moment, I'd hope for the whole industry, it's looking very positive on where it is. So it's about what records are we going to break this year? What is the the outcome we could actually come to, which would be quite exciting on where things are looking and bits and pieces. So that for me is really exciting, because I still think there's a lot of opportunities that is in the market for everybody. I think we are riding a bit of a wave at the moment that there is so much pent up demand from customers still looking to go away. You know, travel wasn't back fully last year, so we have still got that. I do think that comes with a thread as well. It's something that we've looked at our business, is almost this the ketchup bottle scenario, where in Q1 you've got this splurge as everybody comes out, and then what happens in the next 9 months? Is everybody booked up? Is everybody going to think about it? I do think for an agent, it hasn't got as big a threat, because I know we're seeing so many new customers come to us from online or direct, and that will help us. But I do think that's something that we are looking at for the rest of the year. And as Andy mentioned, you know, we were talking about it yesterday in a meeting. It feels like, and rightly so, the karma gods are with us at the moment. You know, the industry just falls upon difficult thing after difficult thing, and at the moment for 11 weeks it's been really positive. So it's hoping that these karma gods stay with us, because we all worked so hard throughout the pandemic. And, you know, I know every industry will say it impacted them the most, but still, I still believe it impacted us the most. Nobody had to close down like we did, but still operate and refund and cancel and do everything we did. So I just genuinely hope that those karma gods stick with us, so that we can all benefit as much as we can.
Oh, I think everybody watching this will be feeling exactly the same. So I think that's a perfect place to leave it. I'm so grateful to you all. It's a really upbeat conversation, which is great. Definitely some things we've got to be aware of. That's fine. But as you've all said, you're doing well at the moment, and I really hope that continues. So thank you to Amanda from Designer Travel, to Andy from Classic Collection, to Paul from Fred Olsen Travel, and to Harry from Ocean Holidays. I'm really grateful, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.